So Eddie Hearn has come out with a statement and said, and I quote, "I got a letter from Mayweather Promotions telling me to stop talking about Gervonta Davis." Now, this whole Eddie Hearn, Leonard Ellerbe, and Gervonta Tank Davis Mayweather Promotions situation is very interesting. A few weeks ago, or let's just say about a week ago, Gervonta Davis was adamant on being his own man, and I was potentially saying that, is he going to be a free agent? He seemed that he wanted to move on from Mayweather Promotions and make the big fights, but I also seen it murmurs about, Gervonta Tank Davis saying that I could still continue with Mayweather Promotions. So I found that quite interesting, quite weird. It seems like he might be backtracking. I thought maybe he should go as a free agent and move on, maybe from Mayweather Promotions, and go work on a fight by fight basis with any promotional company to, pick and choose the big fights. But, I don't know what he's going to do. But this whole issue between Leonard Ellerbe and Eddie Hearn is also very interesting because Ellerbe seems infuriated with Eddie Hearn. He's come out and he's trolled Eddie Hearn. He's mentioned about how fighters haven't progressed and that they've declined, and he mentioned Anthony Joshua and he mentioned Canelo Alvarez, and he was criticizing Eddie Hearn for his matchmaking of putting Joshua in there against Ruiz and saying how that was detrimental to his career, that, he put Joshua in there against Ruiz on such a short notice. And that was true. It was a bad move because we all know that Ruiz went on to win the fight, and they probably did underestimate Andy Ruiz and didn't expect that he would be as good as he was. But Joshua did come back and beat Ruiz fairly easily in the rematch, but it definitely tarnished the image of Anthony Joshua, seeing this guy who looks like Andy Ruiz. Aesthetically, you didn't think that this Andy Ruiz geezer had a hope, had a prayer of beating Joshua, but, well, he ended up beating Anthony Joshua, and Joshua lost a lot of fans as a result of that loss, and you could even say he's lost confidence according to some people. Leonard Ellerbe also mentioned the Canelo Alvarez situation, mentioning how Canelo's numbers aren't as good. I don't know how true that is necessarily, but you do have to admit that it is been a bit difficult for Eddie Hearn recently because Anthony Joshua lost his last fight, Dillian Whyte lost his last fight, Canelo Alvarez lost his last fight. All of Eddie Hearn's top guys are losing, and it makes you wonder who's going to be that next guy for Eddie Hearn, because it looked like a point it was going to be Canelo Alvarez, but how does the Bivol loss affect his stock, I guess you could say? For me personally, I don't read too much into it. I just say that, Canelo moved up in weight, and it wasn't beyond belief that he would lose because he's fighting someone who is naturally bigger. So when I seen Bivol win, I wasn't so surprised, but more so the casuals are not going to be as impressed with Canelo because he lost to Bivol, who wasn't a household name. And that's something I mentioned. I remember mentioning that it would have been better if Canelo fought a Charlo or a Benavidez and lost to them, because the casuals, have acknowledged these guys as top fighters where they're not really aware of Dimitri Bivol. So that's definitely going to affect Eddie Hearn now that all of his top guys have lost. Who does he turn to? Can he turn to Conor Benn? He's not quite on the level as the other guys, Joshua, Canelo Alvarez, Dillian Whyte. He's not as marketable, and he's in such a difficult division. It'll be very interesting because if you look at the welterweight division, you've got guys like Jaron Ennis and Virgil Ortiz, and I think the general consensus from the public is that they're the top guys and they're going to be the best after Errol Spence and Terence Crawford. So it's really hard for Conor Benn to solidify, or should I say make his stamp on the welterweight division, just because it's one of the most competitive divisions in boxing and it's got a plethora of talent, as I mentioned. Though I think Leonard Ellerbe is wrong to say that, Eddie Hearn should stop talking about Gervonta Davis, because if Gervonta Davis is a free agent, which from my knowledge he is, then he can work with Eddie Hearn, whether Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather like it or not. You know, the option is there. And you got to look at Leonard Ellerbe and say, well, who are your other top guys? And compare Leonard Ellerbe's top guys and Eddie Hearn's top guys. Because if we're being realistic, Eddie Hearn was the one who put British boxing back on the top, at least in my opinion. He was the one who brought through guys like Dylan White, like Anthony Joshua. He was putting on good domestic fights. He's also got guys like Joshua Buatsi in the light heavyweight division who beat Craig Richards not long ago. So there's a few top guys that Eddie Hearn still got, but I wouldn't say they're elite and they're not the most marketable guys. He's undefeated guys such as Conor Benn and Joshua Buatsi, but you know, there's potential there. Is Eddie Hearn with Lawrence Okolie? Yeah, I forget if Eddie Hearn is with Lawrence Okolie, but again, even if he is with Okolie's just not as marketable. But I think a move to the heavyweight division once he becomes undisputed. Well, we don't know if he's going to become undisputed, but let's just say, for argument's sake, Okolie was to become undisputed and move up to heavyweight. I feel like then he would become more marketable because of the talent in the heavyweight division. So, do you guys think Leonard Ellerbe is in the right to say Eddie Hearn should stop talking to Gervonta Davis? Because, as far as I'm concerned, if Tank Davis is a free agent, his contract is up, you know, Eddie Hearn should be allowed to talk about Gervonta Tank Davis. Is this Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions trying to show maybe their appreciation for Gervonta Tank Davis? Or is this desperation? Maybe they feel like Gervonta Tank Davis is the only real superstar and the only real marketable person they've got that they can't lose him. Maybe they are in fear that if Eddie Hearn were to acquire Gervonta Tank Davis and his talents and his services, that he's going to make Eddie earn a lot of money. And I'm sure, you know, Mayweather Promotions and definitely Leonard Ellerbe, who is the CEO of Mayweather Promotions, would not like that. Also, we got to talk about Eddie Hearn and DAZN, because Eddie Hearn tried to, you know, make DAZN very big in America, but it just seems like he didn't get the market right, and I think that's something Leonard Ellerbe has mentioned. I think DAZN might need more sports, you know, because it would have been helpful if they were to acquire football, because we know that, at least in the UK, even though this is not really applicable to the American market, because Americans are more into gridiron or American football, and in England they call football soccer, which is what the Americans call it. I just feel like DAZN need more sports. They can't just rely on boxing, because if you really want to attract the American market, you've got to appeal to them. You know, boxing isn't the main sport in America, so you've got to add something and bring something forth, because it seems that Eddie Hearn may have fumbled the bag, and the pressure is definitely going to be on him, because, you know, what did they give him? An injection of $1 billion to really get DAZN going, and right now you'd have to say he's failing, but overall I still do feel like Eddie Hearn is the best promoter in boxing, and that he did put UK boxing back on the map. He is struggling, but I guess that's life. You got to take risk, and this DAZN situation was a high risk, high reward, and it looks like it's not worked out for Eddie Hearn, but maybe it's still recoverable. So let me know what you guys think about this Eddie Hearn, Leonard Ellerbe beef in the comment section below. Alright, peace.